9 students of BSc and BSc Computer Science program from Mumbai's NG Acharya and DK Marathe College of Art, Science and Commerce College approached the Bombay High Court challenging a recently implemented dress code by the college authorities, claiming that the new dress code violates their fundamental rights to privacy, dignity and religious freedom to choose what to wear. What was the dress code though? The college, represented by senior advocate, told the court that the dress code was imposed to avoid display of religious symbols apart from those that are mentioned as part of the fundamental right of religion, such as the turban for Sikhs. The ban, according to the college, was not targeted at Muslims and that it applied to all religious symbols. It prohibited students from wearing hijab, niqab, burqa, stole, cap, etc. on the campus. The college argued if tomorrow a student comes dressed in full bhagwa clothing, the college will oppose that too. Why is it necessary to openly disclose one's religion or caste? Will a Brahmin roam around with the sacred thread outside the clothes, is what the college argued in court.
देखिए, चॉइस कॉलेज के अंदर ही क्यों उन्होंने अपना जताना है। ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 5 घंटे एक दिन में 24 घंटों में से अगर उनको हमारा ड्रेस कोड कॉलेज के अंदर अगर वो उनको मतलब कि मानना पड़े तो उसमें हर्जी क्या है। 5 घंटे के बाद जो चाहे वो आज़ादी कॉलेज के बाहर लेने के लिए उनको फ्रीडम है। देखिए, हम लोग ने ये बोला है कोई भी रिलीजन, कोई भी कल्चरल डिस्पैरिटी, ये दोनों भी नहीं चाहिए। आप कॉलेज के बाहर पूरे आप फ्री है और ऐसा हम लोग ने कुछ नहीं बोला है कि सोमवार को पीला डालो और मंगलवार को नीला डालो, उसमें भी फ्रीडम दिया हुआ है। ये बोला हुआ है कि सभ्य और डिसेंट और दैट इज फॉर्मल।
The students, or rather petitioners, claimed they had been wearing the niqab or hijab for several years inside and outside the college. The move violated their fundamental rights to privacy and choice, as well as the right to practice their religion. They called the ban arbitrary, unreasonable, bad in law and perverse.
ऐसे नहीं कर सकते ना हम लोगों के लिए हिजाब कोई छोटी बात नहीं है। ये लोग जबरदस्ती कर रहे हैं। ये लोगों ने क्या किया कि जब भी जितने भी हम लोग मुस्लिम गर्ल्स थे उन लोगों को बुलाया और बोला कि हम लोग कुछ नहीं कर सकते बेटा, आपको ड्रेस कोड फॉलो करना ही पड़ेगा। लेकिन हम लोगों ने बोला कि ये कोई छोटी बात तो है नहीं, सिर्फ ड्रेस कोड, खाली हम लोगों को बोला जा रहा है कि ड्रेस कोड फॉलो।
ऑफिस जाएंगे तब हम लोग अपने आप को उस हिसाब से ढाल लेंगे या फिर फ्रीलांसिंग करेंगे, घर बैठ के काम करेंगे। लेकिन अभी से ये रूल क्यों निकाला जा रहा है?
It's a shame. I mean, in the 21st century, if you think that burqa will make a change in how they study and their education, then they should really grow up.
I think it's the same because I think it would make the students uncomfortable and not make them want to come to college and study. And wearing burqas and ridha is a choice and not a force.
While we understand that this is a sort of setback to the students, what is the next course of action?
See, after the dismissal of the petition by Honorable Bombay High Court, we have met students, we have discussed it, but because the entire judgment copy has not come, but they are firm enough that they are going to challenge it before the Honorable Supreme Court of India. Finally, we came before the Honorable Bombay High Court, we filed writ petition and it was heard on 19th of June 2024. Today was the verdict and Honorable Bombay High Court dismissed the petition. And we have primarily discussed with the students. They are firm enough that after the entire judgment copy comes, they are going to take it to exception. They are going to challenge it before the Honorable Supreme Court of India.
The entire debate seems to be a repeat mode of the massive protests and legal recourse in Karnataka over hijab in uniforms and the 2022 split verdict of the Supreme Court, which itself is reflective of the complexity of the issue. Why do I say so? Justice Dhulia had contended all the petitioners want is to wear a hijab. Is it too much to ask in a democracy? How is it against public order, morality or health? How is wearing hijab a law and order problem? The reasonable accommodation of such such demands are only a sign of a mature society, is what he had said. While the dissenting judge stated that students have a right to education and that the state has not stopped students from attending classes. Choosing not to attend classes voluntary is an act of student. The restriction on hijab does not amount to denial of the right to education, and there is no right to insist on wearing anything additional to a uniform. But there are two big differences between what's unfolding in a Mumbai college vis-a-vis colleges in Karnataka. In Karnataka, colleges, schools, there were uniforms that were involved. In Mumbai, there's none, no uniforms. But college claims there's a quest for uniformity vis-a-vis the religious symbols that would be worn. In Karnataka, it was a government-backed policy decision. In Mumbai, the state is out of this as of now. And remember, while discussing hijab in the top court, the comparison is often made to other religious symbols like the turban being allowed in educational institutions. Interestingly, several courts, including Karnataka and the Supreme Court, have stated that wearing a hijab or a religious symbol like a turban cannot be compared, stating the 5 Ks of Sikhism being part of the essential religious practices, while there's argument that it isn't the same case when it comes to wearing a hijab. With even Karnataka High Court claiming that it was a cultural practice, with some arguing that even if a cultural, it was a protected right. Let's take a look at the global phenomena really. There are countries, in fact, that have banned the use of hijab, and if we can have that graphics up. France, Switzerland, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, China are among some, and there are even Muslim majority countries that have banned the use of hijab. Kosovo, Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan have banned the burqa and hijab in public schools or universities, or for the government officials as well. In fact, the latest is Tajikistan. It's a complex issue, even in India. And remember, there's not been any final say whatsoever to the Karnataka hijab row as it were, because the Supreme Court, a larger bench, is supposed to listen into issues related to it, but that's yet to begin. Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali joins us right now. She's an Islamic scholar. Karuna Nundy, who is a senior advocate with the Supreme Court. Professor Tanveer Ejaz, who's a columnist and an academician, as well as Firoz Bakht Ahmed, who's a former Chancellor. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. My first question to you, Karuna Nundy, at this point, and thank you everybody for joining us. Karuna Nundy, to you, what do you make out of what the Bombay High Court has really said today? It said that it does not want to intervene or interfere in this matter, which means essentially as of now, the college is free to continue with the rule that it has made.
So the question is open, legally speaking, because the Supreme Court had in the Aishat case decided 2 different ways, right? There was Justice Hemant Gupta's verdict, and there was the verdict that I personally find much more compelling, which is Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia's verdict. Now, which means that this particular case, this Bombay High Court case, is highly likely to end up with the Supreme Court. Now, what did broadly Justice Dhulia say of the Supreme Court? Essentially, when the expression is protected under Article 19(1), right? And it is sincerely held. Because I think it's safe to presume that if people who wear the hijab have a sincerely held belief. When the limitation, the restriction would be disproportionate and would be a bad tailoring of the right that exists. When these young women, it's entirely possible, would not be able to get an education due to this incorrect tailoring. When there is also a right to dignity, when you're actually attending an educational institution, right? There is a right to freedom, there is a right to dignity. And this is no military camp. This is no school even. This is a college. So frankly, even a bare reading of this very short notice, where they say that they don't want signs of religion, and they mentioned 3 signs of one religion and no signs of any other religion. It seems somewhat odd to me. And also, I think the fact that you make no distinction between a hijab, a burqa, and a niqab, which are 3 completely different things, right? Like, a niqab is something that hides the face. And there, I'm not sure, but I haven't looked at the arguments as deeply as I would wish. But I would say it perhaps does interfere with, might interfere with the back and forth that is required in education, the kind of expressions, the sort of reading of each other that you want. But a hijab is like a dupatta. A hijab really is very much like a turban. You know, I think it's ridiculous to ban a hijab in this manner.
Okay. Mr. Firoz Bakht Ahmed, if I can get you in at this point, you heard Karuna Nundy and you also heard the students who were speaking. We had their reactions as well. Now, you know, when you look at it, it seems fair. They have been wearing hijab for years. That's what they're saying. They've been wearing hijab for years. They wear it wherever they go, whether it be in college or outside. So that being one, they are comfortable with that. That's their practice. That's what they want to continue. We may argue with whatever sense we want to, whichever lens we want to. But at the end of the day, they are students. They are women. That's the kind of a context they are used to. That's how they've been coming to college. All this while, they are not freshers to college. So if that is what really it is, then a sudden rule by a college like this, why would it be necessitated? And the college is saying, if someone comes in full bhagwa, we would take the same step. But what are the odds that someone would come in a bhagwa, full bhagwa, to somebody who will come in hijab? It's far more frequent.
For a start, Sneha, I was listening to my co-panelist. In fact, I could conclude that she was somehow or the other in favor of hijab. Right. Anyway, she has all the right in the world to conclude whatever she thinks.
But I'll let you finish and then respond.
I have not only, just a minute, let me complete. Ma'am, please let me complete.
Sure,
Then
go ahead.
you will be given your chance. I also heard the girls, I also heard Karuna, I also heard what the principal was
Nundy,
saying.
please.
And I have to, since, please, I would humbly request you, ma'am, not to...
No, she was just specifying that she would like her full name.
Okay, let me complete. Otherwise, I'll lose the
Go ahead.
point of view. So what I mean to say is that I have to balance all these because I have been a former chancellor and I have been with the student community and with the management and with the teachers. In this case, you rightly said, Karuna, that it is not a military discipline or problem that they can't wear a hijab. But at the same time, you see, India is and will not be run either by any religious law. It can't be Sharia, it can't be any Hindu, Sikh or Christian law. Our country is run by the largest written constitution by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and if the college has some kind of I won't call it a diktat, a rule that yes, don't wear hijab or don't wear turban. Now, the other thing is hijab is not the essential tenet of Islam. There are 5 essential tenets of Islam. And despite that, I would say that let us not fall into this controversy. And like what happened in Karnataka, the girls actually were misled. They were, in fact, mismanaged by some people who were really very, very communalist in their say, and they told the girls, no hijab, no kitab. This should not happen.
Sir.
And this is just in the parameters of the college boundary. Outside that, they're free. Ban on hijab is not outside.
I'm allowing you to speak what you want to because you have to be given your time. So please continue. But I have a strong objection to what you've said. But nonetheless, please continue.
Please.
Okay, so my problem really is why do we snatch away agency from women? We don't snatch away agency from men. Why is it so easy for us to say that women were misled? I don't hear that men were misled.
Absolutely. You are right. That's a very dicey question to answer. You see, let me tell you one thing. Tomorrow, if some, Hindu brethren tell their girls, their daughters that you go in a ghungat, right? Obviously, I have no objection for anything, hijab or anything. But if the college has set a particular law, it has to be followed. If the college says don't write with green pen, it is only for the principal or for the manager of the school. So we have to follow that.
Okay.
Respect and regard for rules and regulations have to be there anywhere. But still, keeping in view what Karuna says, I believe, it should be a matter of choice.
Okay, Ms. Karuna Nundy, since he did make references to you, a quick response if you want. I have other panelists as well to go to. So please, Ms. Karuna Nundy, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Firoz, since you've decided we're pals, on this occasion I'll accept and we'll be on first name basis. So Firoz, since you were saying that when men come, if men were to be in a position of power and to encourage people to encourage their daughters, right, and their girls to have a particular view, I think this sort of reveals your deeply entrenched patriarchy. With apologies, but I do think that we must discuss these things in our society because we must all evolve towards constitutional values and towards the fundamental right to equality. So the thing is, Firoz, that when women go to college, they are adults, right? When women go to the Supreme Court, I'm 48 years old. I have about more than 20 years in the profession. And through these 20 years, as a senior advocate, I have seen a number of highly competent women not argue as much so far, but assist lawyers in arguments with hijabs.
No, being a man, I am against patriarchal construct altogether.
You have your chance, Firoz. Let me finish. Now, the thing is that in the most secular of institutions, in the acme of the constitutional interpretive institution, right, we have a situation where the hijabs are not coming in the way of anything, frankly. As I said, that, when we speak of the constitution, we mustn't speak loosely. We must speak with responsibility. So we must read the judgments. We must see, for example, what both judges have said. Justice Hemant Gupta has made an argument, and there is an argument to be made, but it is not the argument you are making. It is not the green pen argument, right? The green pen argument is nobody's sincerely held belief that has been taken away. The green pen argument does not violate anybody's right to Article
30 seconds, Karuna Nundy.
And substantive equality. The green pen does not violate the right to dignity. The green pen does not violate the right of an individual to express what they believe to be
But pay
their
attention to what
religion.
Justice Chandrukar and Justice Patil said
Therefore,
from Bombay High Court. I mean, Mumbai High Court.
When we speak of constitution, I've read that judgment. When we speak of constitutionalism, we must look at law.
Okay. All right, Ms. Karuna Nundy, let me allow me, both of you allow me, I will give both of you the time to respond as well. Let me just go to others as well at this point. Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali joins us. Now, Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, how do you look at this? As a person who has seen this row across several states, several religious institutions for that matter, you have students who are saying, I want to wear hijab. You have students who are saying, what's the need of a hijab? You have education institutions that are saying, listen, we don't want to get religious symbols in place. They should not be allowed in educational institutions. And then there are others who are saying, why suddenly after years, out of nowhere, do education institutions need to crop up and say, no more religious symbols, no hijab, vis-a-vis? How do you look at this, Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali?
Thank you for inviting me to this show. And I'm greatly benefited by my other co-panelists. But the first thing I'd like to say, that one of my co-panelists just mentioned the right to dignity, is that, do you mean to say that any girl who does not wear the hijab and comes to college is undignified? I mean, starting from that basis of that argument, let me first make this amply clear that hijab is not a compulsory it is not an essential religious practice, like I have been saying over the years, and neither is it, something that has to be, adhered to in the strict form that it is being adhered to. Now, you see, the present form of hijab, which hijab is, before I go into other details, has acquired, is a very, pre-Islamic Arabic form of this black kind of a robe. And I would like to quote, over here, no less a person than a Saudi Arabian cleric, who has, made this matter amply clear, that, an abaya is not part of Islam. And therefore, you find that many, many Muslim countries have either, removed it altogether, banned it, like, the latest Kazakhstan that you're looking at, or have not made it compulsory and have let people, wear the way they want. But there have been certain educational institutions, government institutions, where it has been, there is, people are not allowed to wear it. So you see, it is not mandatory in Islam. And I would like to quote over here that the only two countries that have made hijab mandatory is Iran and Afghanistan. And these are the views of, shall we say, to my mind, a very patriarchal understanding and interpretation that they follow. But it is interesting to note that in Saudi Arabia, under, MBS, Sheikh Abdullah Al Mutallaq, a very respected member of the country's top clerical body, in 2019 has said that abaya is no longer necessary for women. And he went on to say that women should not be forced to wear this garment. He said that Muslim women should dress modestly, because that is the word that the Quran uses, that you dress modestly, and that it did not necessitate wearing an abaya. That's what they wear in, the Arabic country. They call the burqa the
I would
abaya.
like to add something more.
So the laws that were stipulated were very clear. And what he said also, and at the same time, you have a very great cleric who's, the grand imam of the Al-Azhar University, Mr. Sayyid, Dr. Sayyid Mahmood, Dr. Mahmood Sayyid Tahtavi, who has said the grand imam and the rector of the university, and he has said that this is not compulsory. So the first thing is that there is this great misunderstanding that this is the way and the only way in which Muslim women should dress. Now, there is no time for me to get into this detail, but this much I can tell you, that there are 7 verses to do with hijab, which are, discussed in the Quran, and none of
Dr.
them imply
Zina
a
Shaukat
dress.
Ali, and you're making very interesting points. This in itself is a debate, and I wanted this to be part of it, whether it is an inherent tenet of those who practice the Muslim religion. But nonetheless, while you're mentioning this, how would you look at what's unfolded in this college as well? Because there seems to be, while you are saying that it is not essential to practicing Islam, but the point also here is that there are those who are wearing it. There are those who are wearing it since childhood. There are those who are wearing it always. Not only when they're coming out of the college, they're possibly wearing it at homes and even outside as well. And suddenly you tell them, so this is not something that, when they came into college at the first year, that this was a rule given to them, that they had an option to whether go into that college or not go into that college. They could have made that decision if it was in the beginning of the year. But in the middle of the year, if you make this kind of a decision, what do? You had some of the students say, we'll go and freelance or we'll study, long distance. We may get into this argument whether it is integral to Islam or not. That's an important point as well. But at the end of the day, how do you look at what's unfolding in these colleges?
You see, what is unfolding here, that is exactly what I'm trying to say, is the mindset that has been formed, and therefore this kind of an approach and attitude is being very strongly adopted. That is what I'm trying to tell you, is that you see this kind of understanding that has been implemented and what they have been following, and you have a point that they have come to a certain stage where they, this kind of a mindset is made. But you have to also understand, see, there is a code of dress everywhere. Now, for example, when Muslims go for Hajj, we wear the ihram. So when the ihram is worn, it is worn for Hajj. So it is not worn when you are outside Hajj. So if there are certain codes, for example, if you go to a court of law, there is a certain dress that a secular democracy uses. So when that democracy, and I want to make this point very clear that I want to cut across male and female here. Whether it is an orange saffron a dress that you wear, or you wear a skull cap, or you wear a cross and a Christian gown. I'm not. I'm talking about cutting across everything. So when you are a secular democracy and there is a school demand made, is it all that difficult? My question is the other way around. You wear in the Indian Constitution, you can dress as you please, wherever you go, as you want. But when within the school premises, which are quite safe, and you wear it up to the gate, but when you enter the classroom,
point taken.
if
And
there
I've
is a
given
rule
you.
made, cuts across, I don't see what the difficulty in.
So you're saying you need to be following that. All right.
Yes. I would feel that,
Mr. Firoz Bakht Ahmed also wants to make a point, but
just
allow
very-
me, sir, allow me. There's a panelist who's been waiting very patiently. Let me just go to him. Professor Tanveer Ejaz, you've heard what Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali has said. How do you look at, do you agree with what she's saying? She's saying, is it so difficult to listen to what an education institution has come up? Is it as simple as that? I mean, the courts couldn't find it as simple as that.
No. What I think is that it's a very complex issue, but certain things are, I think, quite clear. One is that the Muslim women who are going to college wearing hijab, the issue there is not about their hijab, but about their empowerment, right? And through education, they would be getting empowerment. Through education, they would be getting agency. Hijab is secondary, right? I could raise certain questions here. The first thing is that, and one will have to get beyond this essentialist argumentary, that whether it is part of whether it is an essential part of the religion or not. We have to go beyond that. As you only said that, it is being practiced, as one of the religious marker, or maybe, if you go by Article 25, it would be freedom of conscience. My faith, my rationality says that, I must wear hijab, so I wear it, right? Or perhaps, there could be a certain kind of an understanding of a religion that may change also. The belief and the rationality keeps on changing. That's besides the point. I'm saying that let's go beyond the essentialist argument and think in terms of Muslim women's empowerment and their agency, right? I'm appalled by the fact that the college, can there be a disciplinary dress code in the university? I mean, it's very bizarre to have a dress code. It's like one nation, one dress. And university is all about freedom. The principal said that we need to have a discipline inside the university, and freedom they can have it outside. In fact, in the university we need to have full freedom. University means that we need to debate, discuss anything in the universe, right? And there has to be a high degree of tolerance within the university in terms of debate, discussion, dissent, critical thinking. This is what university means. So if you allow certain sort of a disciplinary dress code in the university, and why always attack Muslim women? That I don't understand. And why it
No, but the college here is saying it's not just against Muslim or Muslim symbols or hijab. The college is saying they would take the same action for stoles or caps or with...
No. Why does it take a communal turn? Why this sort of a majoritarianism imposition there in any university? All kinds of, then don't allow any religious marker in the college. But that also very bizarre. Suppose somebody wants to wear a cross and go to college, go in my classroom. there are people, because in Delhi University, you have students coming from across the country. I have students, from Kerala sitting with hijab. I have students from Africa also, right? So I mean, you can imagine the kind of diversity which is there. And suppose tomorrow I say that no, you all come with a specific dress code. That is would be violation of freedom of conscience, right? I mean, as long as it is not harming any other
Okay.
person. How a hijab harms other person? Just let me know. How wearing a hijab is an infringement over the right of any other co friend, who's working, or co-student there in the university. I fail to understand this, right? So it's all about,
Professor
as Karuna
Ijaz,
Nundy said, it's all about dignity, it's all about freedom, it's all about rights. But for me, more important is about the agency of Muslim women, because they are always attacked, right? I mean, you can see from Udupi to everywhere they are being attacked. Have you ever seen any other religious women being attacked? No. And I'm sure that tomorrow when they get empowered, they become an Islamic scholar or a lawyer like Karuna Nundy, they would not wear hijab. The whole point is this. Look at the
Okay,
social
Firoz
let
Bakht
me
Ahmed. Yes,
very quick
Firoz Bakht,
reflection. Very quick
to
reflection.
add, I know you want to
Professor
respond
Ijaz,
to Tanveer
a very-
Ijaz. Just a minute.
Okay, huh.
To what Tanveer Ijaz has said, also there's another aspect to it. Remember the split verdict in the Supreme Court? They also said very clearly one of the ways of a mature democracy or a mature society, why can't it just be taken together?
Absolutely, Sneha. That's why we are debating it over here.
True.
You see, let me remind you of one incident. First Muslim judge, Fatima Bibi, she used to wear this hijab and burqa. Whenever she used to go inside the court on the seat of judgment, she took her hijab off and she put that whatever kind of thing is required to give judgment. Right? She was a very strict person with hijab and parda. Other thing is hijab is not abaya or parda or burqa. It comes from within.
So
So
can I ask you one
internal
question out of
sarmohaya.
curiosity? When she was a judge, you're saying she used to take it off. But for her to become a judge, she did have to wear it. It's not just a rule that is going to be followed. There's going to be a
Absolutely.
whole
Yes,
lot
yes.
of pressure that a child has to go
Absolutely.
through, or a
And
woman has to go through, more so for a woman.
finally, you see, let us not talk like, in patriarchal construct. To some extent,
Yeah.
of course, he was quite balanced, Professor Ejaz. But let me tell you one thing. Schools and colleges, these are temples of secular education. If there is a law, if there is a rule which they, ask the students to follow, they have to follow. Why? Because we do not follow Sharia, that is personal, we leave it at home. We do not follow Sanatan Dharma. This is something also we leave at home. When we are on the roads, when we are in schools and colleges, we are Indians, we are Hindustanis. So we have to follow Hindustani law, the Constitution of India, again by B.R. Ambedkar.
Okay. I am very short on time. Karuna Nundy, my last question to you. To what Firoz Bakht Ahmed has said, do you realize what is happening? And, I wish I could take this question to all the panelists here. For somebody who's not a practicing Muslim, I don't come from that religion, but when I listen to this argument happening, I suddenly see women again, and it may not be the case with all of the women, but it just feels that you are stuck. You are stuck between a society that expects you to do so and so, and you are stuck between an institution that expects you to do and so. Where do you go? First to Karuna Nundy, and then I possibly will very quickly take a response from another panelist. Karuna Nundy, I barely have 45 seconds. Please go ahead.
What you're saying, Ms. Koshy, is exactly spot on, right? Which is that why are these debates played out over the bodies of women by others, by the clothing of women? How important is this? Is it not far more important that every single woman end up in as much education as she can possibly get? In a population, and if such a report was way back, but Muslim women are amongst the least educated of any sort of any group in the population. And so when there is a woman who has made it to college and who is able to come You're now going to say, no, sorry, you're wearing a scarf over your head, so we're not going to let you in after you're 2 years in. You know, you make no explicit prohibition for any other religion. And it is, what Dr. Zeenat was saying, in fact, is, I think, exactly right. It is not an essential religious practice. And it's very important to maintain that, because there are sort of very religious women who don't wear the hijab and are good Muslims. And that cannot be taken away from them. Dr. Zeenat will know much more about this than I do, but I have also had occasion to go into this because I advised the government of the Maldives and also presented a paper at the Organization of Islamic Conference. So I was looking at secondary materials, scholars and judgments, etc. But the point is that even if it's not an essential religious practice, let us not tailor the restriction to the freedom of conscience. And let us not limit substantive equality in such a way that women get kept out of the secular education for wearing scarves on their heads.
Ultimately, hijab or no hijab, but kitab is important, and education of Muslim girls or all the girls, it is of paramount importance.
Okay, very quickly, Professor Tanveer, I know you want to also come in at this point, but as I said, I'm totally out of time. I'll allow the woman I'll take the liberty of making her make the last point in this case. Dr. Zeenat Shocker, to what Karuna Nundy said and to what the question really was, is it again women stuck between two sets of rules?
Absolutely. You see, on the one side, they're stuck with the, the patriarchal understanding and, the clerical force in which they have come to certain conclusions, and therefore they take this kind of a stand. But, and I do feel, yes, I do agree that, that education is first and last and above all. And, despite everything, whatever may be the conclusion of, this judgment, ultimately, women must educate themselves, and that is one of the compulsions of Islam. So this is what I have to say. But at the same time, I do feel that in a secular democracy like India, where we have our own culture, first of all, even the present form of hijab is very Arabic in its entire content. There have been people now. Kazakhstan
I am totally out of time, ma'am. I'm totally out of time. I'm really sorry. I'll have to interrupt you. But all four of you have added much. I wish I could really continue more with all four of you on this. Frankly, the way this case unfolded, not this case, but a related case unfolded in the Supreme Court, the complexities and the layers that were reflected in the judgment that eventually came, there was very little scope that we would have had a very simplistic view on this show as well. But thank you very much, all four of you, for joining us, for adding perspective. And we do hope that India will always show signs of being a very mature society and democracy. Thank you very much, all four of you. Thank you. It's time for a very short break. On the other side, it's Late Night Edition, where we bring you all the big and the latest stories through the day.